You're listening to the Court of Public Opinion for January 29th, 2017. We're going to talk about some updates regarding some previous topics we covered in the Court of Public Opinion. Just kind of see what's going on with some of the stories we've been covering. So if you've been following this post, you know exactly what we'll be talking about. I'm not going to repeat myself, but I will say it in a moment. I do want to tell you a story. On Saturday, I was, interviewing for a few other jobs, and especially the last couple weeks. But this in particular was just a small part-time job that I could do to hold me over. And it didn't go that well, and I wasn't really prepared for all the questions I was asked, but that's okay. I mean, I just wasn't prepared for it. So I went to Dollar Tree and was feeling a little down, I admit, And I was going into Dollar Tree. It just felt kind of like the weight of it was all on my feet. I just didn't feel like walking. I just wanted to get in my truck and go. So when you feel like that all the time, you just feel weighed down and tired, you just want to get back in the truck. And got through the line. Then I forgot something. And I was like, oh, I have to go all the way around, find the item, and then get back in the line. And while this is all happening, I see this little boy, just, how you see kids in and out. But I don't know, he just somehow kept somehow coming into my pathway. Being as I was going back and forth between coming through the line only to get back into the line because I had to get something, it's not surprising you might run into a couple people a couple times over in a few minutes. So I walked out, got in the truck. I was just really feeling bad. I just didn't really feel like moving. I don't know why I was in this kind of mood. I was just feeling really bad. And just as I saw this lady, she was talking to this little boy, I thought, okay, well, the little boy must be with his mom. But then he started walking by himself, and he was not struggling, but just looked like he was carrying anything for a young kid. To me, it has to be heavy, and in this cold weather especially. So I know not to, tell kids I'm going to give you a ride home or anything, because that's not what I do. But I just helped but ask him if he needed help, and I said, you need any help? And I introduced myself, and before you know it, we got him down. It really wasn't that far of a walk. It was like a little over a block away. And that was it. But it really made such a difference to me. First of all, I can't think of a more important thing to do is help somebody when you're feeling bad. I don't know if there's something very magical that happens. I forget all the time the things that work. Don't ever forget the things that work. Especially when you're having a bad day, do something for somebody else. It's just amazing how that works out. All right, so we're going to go back to the Court of Public Opinion. I can't help but want to respond to the people that blog about Pizzagate. Yep, that's it. And I'm not responding to the actual case. I'm responding to the people that are very uncomfortable with talking about Pizzagate. I'm uncomfortable with it too, so let's not pretend like this is a comfortable topic. And I know a lot of people are very upset about this. I mean, deeply, deeply troubled. So let's get right to the stories. And I want to mention that Kendall Ray, she's pretty popular. She has about 300,000 subscribers. Unlike me, I don't have 300,000 subscribers, and that's okay. But some of what she was doing is she was kind of going off the fence, on the fence, off the fence, and this back and forth. It's like no one really wants to directly point out the fact that there have been alleged stories about child abuse, and a lot of these stories are always tied to very powerful people. What makes Pizzagate so weird is it involves more powerful people and the way it was exposed, okay? So let's not pretend that child pornography doesn't exist. It does exist. There are real human trafficking stories that are tied to this type of stuff. So what makes this particular story so unique is because of who it involves, okay? So we got that straight. Okay, I don't want to get into the semantics, but I want to talk about the way people report this, because there's a lot of things wrong here, and this is where people get very confused. Okay, you have to know that you do not have to apologize for what's going on out there. I think it's a very uncomfortable situation, a topic that I do not think young people really understand fully. They don't have a fuller world view of it, and I want to make sure that you understand the sensitivity of the nature of these stories, because a lot of people want to defend the people that are involved. Okay, that primarily because of a safety issue. Okay, that's not what this is about. Okay, let's just pretend that for a moment that this is not about the people that are being accused. Let's think about what is going on with the people that have been abused this way, or cases where we can't really explain missing persons reports, because there's something very odd when you pull away from all the stuff that who the accusers are, and you look at some of the other things that just don't add up. First of all, what somebody thinks as a little kid is having fun, a trained eye can see some other things. Okay, this is kind of people passing over the facts. Okay, a lot of people want to dismiss a lot of things, and that's the problem. They're missing the obvious. Okay, sometimes we see what it is, and there's this cognitive dissonance, this ability to just want to normalize this, because denial is a big thing. It's a very tricky thing. It would be a lot easier to deny the truth, okay, and pretend it doesn't exist, but that's very dishonest. First of all, you're being very dishonest with yourself, number one, okay, and you're telling other people that you're not quite sure. Well, that's a fact, because just by illustrating some people's body language and comments, I'm going to tell you, you're not really in a position to be saying these things. It's unfair. I think you're trying to assess it, and that's fair. But it's hard to listen to the way people are putting forth information, okay? And I would be very careful, because then you're responsible for being kind of in this middle murky area again. And that's where people go. You want facts, but I think sometimes people, the way they present facts, they like want to ram all this truth in you, and I don't think that works either. It's not that the truth isn't important either, but there's a way to approach it, and I want to think about why I would approach it more sensitively, because it's a very uncomfortable topic, and we don't expect people to have the right answers, and we don't expect people to try to figure out that kind of evil, okay? So I don't want to sit here and exploit a topic like that, or exploit the people that are discussing this. I just want you to take a moment and realize that we don't expect you guys to have a grip on this, okay? But what I would say, as a means to survive this world that we live in, there is this kind of evil, okay? There's news reports been out for 30, 40 years, and a lot of speculation. So a lot of those cases never went to court either. So we don't know why. You don't need to know why. For whatever reasons, these things do not somehow go to court. And if it involves powerful people, you have to figure it out for yourself. So, okay, I just want you guys to get a better picture of what goes on. Because let's not pretend. I see a lot of people want you guys to be on the fence, and they want you to be afraid. The facts are that these stories do in fact happen. They have been going on for a long time, okay? And unfortunately, there's a lot of problems within law enforcement, and there's a lot of problems with what's going on with the people involved. And if these things ever get to court, and there's ever enough evidence to really fully go through an investigation without any problems, which I almost think that's impossible, people are just not really paying attention. Okay, facts do matter. And when we have a real courtroom where these facts can be presented, I think the world would be a different place altogether. It's not just this, but it's involving a lot of things. But a lot of what is happening, and I want to segue to this because I think it's important too, because we've been highlighting a lot of topics on housing and why the poor is so important to hold on to. If you look at the world's population of poor, they're easily manipulated because of food, because of the type of housing and the desperate conditions. And the thing is that it's all going to turn on the head of the people that do this. Because something I learned about Joseph Stalin that just really astonished me, if you really think about this, Joseph Stalin was a very powerful dictator, but at one time he was a, quote, believer, Christian or whatever. And one of the things he demonstrated to the people around him, I guess it would be his like military generals or whatever, and he demonstrated how evil he really was. But it was genius. This is how evil he was, but he was a genius. And he illustrated the point that he took a chicken as an example. And if you were to skin alive a chicken alive, what he didn't do is he didn't skin the chicken alive, but he put the chicken through suffering. I mean, he literally picked every feather off this chicken, and this chicken was in excruciating pain. So imagine every feather is being pulled out, completely bare. That kind of torture to that chicken was illustrating a point to all the people around him, that he was basically saying that by the time he got done plucking every feather out of that chicken was so afraid of him. What fear will do is it could drive people to be completely subservient to them. Meaning, what is your master? Is fear going to master you? Because in this case, what ended up happening to that chicken is that he illustrated the point that once he got done doing that, he brought food and put it in his hand, and he lowered it down to the chicken, and the chicken went right to him. He goes, I can control them with fear. And if I torment them and torture them being nice to them, they will eat right out of my hand. Meaning, you can torment people for a long, long periods of time over poverty, over torture, and a lot of what people don't understand about slavery then, back in the time of the origins of America, is that a lot of people were tormented by the I guess you would say, overwhelming tax laws. And back in that age and that time, people had slaves. It wasn't an American phenomenon. It was going on worldwide. Slavery was not just an American thing. It was going on in the time of Europe, and a lot of it was just more prevalent because more people came to America and they brought their help with them. By today's standard, we would call that employees, but a lot of what happened, it got much worse because of what they were bringing over, other than cargo, was people, human capital, human beings. So looking at some of these stories and looking at history, this time, I have to tell you, this applies to some things that I've been reading in the Bible for a long time about the historical importance of the time in which we live in. Because everything that we understand about history and everything we understand about America and its rule today, and looking at what's going on in geopolitics, it's not hard to believe that while slavery existed then, it still exists today, but for obvious reasons. Okay, the important thing is when we apply some news and stories to this, and we really look at what's going on geopolitically, we're coming through a different empire and a different era. And a lot of people don't understand that, okay? Notice that Christianity's been demonized. I can guarantee you all this. What we think we know about Christianity in America and what they know about Christianity in other parts of the world is vastly different. Our view of Christianity, we really haven't gotten the full story. We know, yes, Jesus died on the cross, but there's so much we don't know about Christianity, the religion, about Paul, about why he went to Corinth, why he went and he traveled, why did he die, why did he die on, at that old age, and every apostle that died, they died brutal deaths. So there's a lot about Christianity's under extreme criticism. Okay, I think it's because it's about holiness, and there's no place for being in the middle of the road, and that's very hard for people to abandon a way of life that they've come to get used to. I mean, there's an old saying: some people come to like their slavery and their poverty, and sometimes I think we resist it. I think sometimes we resist the truth because it's hard to sometimes accept it, and that's the horrible reality of this, is that it's really hard to accept the world, how evil it could really be. Because if you really think back, it would make anybody sink in their chair. The other day I was just sick to my stomach. I couldn't bear one more day of it. I couldn't hear one more story. I couldn't. So I don't want to, again, I think it's hard to make light of a story like that and not come away a little nauseated. So we can't really spend a whole lot of time on that without getting a little nauseous, okay? I can't do it. I can't. Physically, it makes me sick. Some of the stuff we see on the internet today, okay? And I'm not putting anything to chance, but there are some people, and on one end, some of these people that do investigate it, they're going overboard, okay? They have to understand. You gotta be very cautious with this kind of stuff, because there's a lot of people in danger. And including those that delve into this topic. And I think it's important we talk about it, and I think it's a very awkward topic, and I don't know that it's always the best to, put your foot into it, okay? I would be very careful, because you don't want to see this turn around on you, and then you end up being a target, okay? A lot of times that's what happens in a lot of, cases and things. There's reasons why you have to be trained a little bit more to say no to these things. Like, I'm not going to delve into that today. We're going to touch on that. But there are some people, they broke all the rules, and they're doing a really good job. So I don't want to demonize other people unfairly. That's not what I'm saying. But I think some of these people, like I noticed one guy, he went off on me about it. I mean, if you guys know anything about some of my reports, we've dealt with child pornography cases going back to the 1980s. So it's not new to me. So I'm not sure I can really appreciate somebody yelling at me. I'm just trying to give you some wisdom and insight. Maybe it would help you, maybe it won't. But some of these people, they just go in there and think they're doing superhuman things, and they have to understand, you're young now. You really think, when you fully get what's going on, you fully realize how horrible this is. Some people not going to be patting themselves on the back. This is what you're normal compared to what we've been dealing with. So thank God there are people that are wise enough to separate yourself a little, and don't be patting yourselves on the back. These children should never be in this kind of danger to begin with, but they are. And there's a lot more to these stories about that too. We should not. To me, it's doing your job. If this is what you want to do as a career, you want to help kids and you want to help families, you want to better understand it. It's very, very hard to expect anybody to fully get this, though, without wanting to get nauseous. I needed to state that. Okay, so let's change the topic, because I just can't really get into that. I don't even like going down that far with it either. I really don't. But I will say there are things that are happening in geopolitics. It's very weird. And it's because of President Trump and his strong position to protect America and protect Israel. It's very, very obvious that Donald Trump is making some big decisions, and just a very much, I guess you could say, a little over a week, he's made some big decisions. And I wish I could talk about it. Just don't have the head for it today. But what I do want to take a lighter note. Some other topics we were covering, and I think that if I were to cover all of it today, I would. I will say that we were going to look to do more of these science news reports. I call it the Third Watch Update. I just find this all very fascinating, and the reason I'm kind of taking a break from the Court of Public Opinions because I think the way things are going, we can kind of lay low and watch the news. So I'm taking, I think, a well-needed time out from doing some of these updates and posts for a while. Well, just a couple days, maybe a week, I don't know. I'm just going to take some time off and watch what's going on in the news, but we are doing some other things, and I love this research tool that we have because we always like to take some time out for research and study. And I started doing that yesterday, and I came across more videos, and to me it's about fact-finding and doing homework and taking time. It's not all about just doing posts. I think that's kind of the end result of some of the things we've been discussing or, researching. So these other posts that I work on, I do everything separate from each other. The Court of Public Opinion covers like topics that I think a lot of people have a lot of opinions on. But we kind of switch over to the science, weather news, and space weather. And it's just one of the fascinating topics. I want you to know, though, well, a lot of people are asking, well, what should we be watching for? Well, according to the way I see it, and I'm not saying it's factual or not, but you're going to probably see more space weather events, and they could be very close near misses of asteroids. But what I really want to look ahead at, if we were looking at what's going to happen as far as interstellar space weather or scientific phenomenons, I would suggest watch September 23rd and the planetary alignment. And I'm going to do some more updates. I'll put the third watch update in here so you can listen. Thank you for listening to the Court of Public Opinion. The Court of Public Opinion is a part of the Amateur Radio Network.